So just a quick one. I haven't got that much to say really, but confined as I am somewhat to barracks at the moment, I've fallen into the habit or routine of having CNN or Sky News on in the morning for about an hour. It's just a bit of background noise really while I'm having some breakfast and writing up my journal as I've become accustomed to doing. And I really just I have to just make a comment about the hourly cycle of news that those two news outlets produce. It's actually at this stage I'm starting to find them unintentionally hilarious to look at. You know, they're if we accept that there's a fair amount of propagandizing, I suppose, to a certain extent with any news outlet really. And would you even say propagandizing? It's market share, obviously, that they need to maintain. I mean, that's their whole raison d'etre, and they obviously do have a direction, though, a coherent direction, though, that they're pinning their colours to, in terms of thinking that they're riding a particular cultural zeitgeist. So, and in the case of CNN and Sky, they're really, at this point, they're interchangeable to me. At this point, it's obviously a very progressive and absolutely preoccupied with social justice and all that flows from that highly dubious prospect. But they just to observe an hour's worth of each of their news cycles there, it's so monotonously predictable and stultifying, frankly. They just belabor these tired, careworn and threadbare narratives about the supposed vitally, systemically racist world around us, the relentless suppression of the oppressed classes, the terrible inequality and inequity that exists in the world, particularly in the West. And it's just so stultifying to look at. But that being said, as I've said in earlier videos, I have set my stall out to try and stay as open-minded as I possibly can. So I do make myself look at news outlets such as CNN and its sister channel MSNBC and Sky. Like I said, at this point, actually kind of unintentionally hilarious at this point. Now, one particular news item on CNN that caught my eye this morning was the rather serious problem of the amount of violence being perpetrated on folks in the Asian American communities in America, particularly in San Francisco and New York. There's been an absolute spate of attacks on Asian folks in Asian American communities over the last year. It's wellspring. It's possible that it's kind of wellspring of this particular rash of violence is all down to the whole COVID-19, and of course the Orange Man implicated China here. So it's got to be the Donald, I'm sure, must be responsible for all of this. But in viewing that particular item this morning, and these are all stories that I've noted and checked out and looked for a little bit of follow-up online on some various YouTube news commentary resources. over the last year, and continuing to the present time. There's been some really, really horrible attacks on elderly people, actually. It seems to be almost like a version of happy slapping, a lot of it. Well, people are being attacked in their places of business and just on the street. And CNN, in presenting this item today, and it was a decent 5-minute segment, talking about like how serious a problem it is. But in the montage of footage they showed, security camera footage, and mostly security camera footage that was actually able to show the assaults occurring, it's glaringly obvious that the folks that are attacking the Asian American folks are African Americans. It's so blindingly, patently obvious. Yet CNN managed to assiduously not mention that once in the entire news item. Now, in my opinion, the merciless race baiting that occurs on stations like Sky and CNN, I personally think is so staggeringly irresponsible that it defies description. So I'm slightly conflicted in talking about this because, to be perfectly honest with you, it may well be the case that the race of the folks attacking and in some cases murdering Asian Americans possibly shouldn't be mentioned. Maybe it's of no particular help to mention the race of the people, but it is absolutely one-way traffic, and it's alarming to note. There may be complicated reasons why it's happening, but there's absolutely no doubting the fact that for some folks, mostly young men, it would appear, in the African American community are attacking Asian American folks at random, it would appear, in the likes of New York and San Francisco, and have been doing this for several months now. So it is a problem. It's a thing that's happening. I'd imagine some of the Asian American communities are highly distressed about it at this stage. And you get this insipid attempt by the likes of a news outlet like CNN it's too large a story to ignore, but it just is not in keeping with the social justice saturated zeitgeist or narrative that the likes of the CNN or Sky are trying to promulgate daily all the time. And it is so eye-catchingly, jarringly obvious. The mere not mentioning of it is just forcing the rest of us to have to notice, okay? So, again, in just thinking about it, I do feel a little bit conflicted, because part of me would say, do not race bait at all. Don't do it. Because all it does is forces us to pay morbid attention to each other's differences like that, differences of race, our skin colour. It's in precisely the same way that all the Black Lives Matter nonsense that we have had vomited on us for the last year, saturated with it. It is forcing us to pay morbid attention and not allowing us to, as much as possible, try and see each other as individuals. And all that has to stop. So I suppose, in trying to come to a position on it, if race baiting a story like that will be ignored and absolutely shan't be indulged in, and the race of the folks attacking Asian Americans, if it serves no useful purpose to mention that, then I think a lot of the other race baiting that is absolutely indulged in so freely in any other context, where, for example, our George Floyds or our Breonna Taylors or our Eric Garners or our Ahmaud Arbery's and our Alton Sterlings, and I could go on and on. I am a 49-year-old Irish person resident in County Wicklow. I work for a living and have only been to America once, and in fact absorbed very little American culture anymore. It's mostly music from Europe that I listen to, and a lot of all the classic books that I read and things like that. So what the heck's any of this got to do with me? But I still, those names and 20 more are etched into my brain. Okay, and it's no mere coincidence that that's happening. It's the relentless messaging. But no one would be able to tell you the name of any of the officers murdered in Baton Rouge about 3 or 4 years ago by a guy called Gavin Long. A Black Lives Matter adjunct individual, or any of the 5 cops murdered by Micah Johnson in Dallas about 5 years ago. I don't know the names of any of those cops, or the ones that were grievously injured. There was many more injured in those attacks, and many more like that. We know none of these names, and needless to remark, we know none of the names of the 500 odd white people that are killed in officer involved homicides in America every year. We know none of this, and we're also, not familiar with the names of victims of racist murder in, for example, Britain. The likes of Chris Donald, for example. The reason that we don't know these names is because they're the wrong colour skin. And again, just to belabor the point, I think, I'm not sure if that's the correct word. Maybe that's the way it should be. Maybe the race baiting, or not even race baiting, but the actual reference to race in the context of the crime. Maybe we shouldn't do it at all. Maybe the best way would be first to stop trying to batten on a divisive, poisonous layer of interpretation of incidents, of deaths, officer-involved homicides or similar. And if we manage to be able to wean ourselves off either producing news that says that, or any of us absorbing news like that and being outraged by it, maybe we might start to make a little bit of progress in terms of these attempts to pit us all against each other all the time. I'm not sure, but I think it would be a more productive way forward than the sanctimonious pile of virtue signalling nonsense that our news currently manifests as. And yeah, thanks for listening.